Hey, I'm Sara Gonzales. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn, what was the top story?
Oh, the CNN trip to the border.
Okay. Oh, man, I can't wait to get into that. Stu.
The 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Okay. All right. Andrew.
Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson are allying behind a matter. We'll talk about that.
Excellent.
All right. Can't wait. Got a lot to get into. Before we do that, want to talk to you about how I used to be fat.
Oh. How do we talk about me? I'm still fat.
Okay, so Riduzone is what can help you, Glenn, because they take the molecule, the good molecule in olive oil that boosts your metabolism and helps you feel full longer, and they put it in this little capsule, and you just got to take it before your meals. And I call it my magic pill.
But I have to actually order it, right?
Well, maybe.
See, one of the reasons why I'm fat is because I am lazy.
Yeah.
I've been working on this by slipping supplements into your water in the morning.
Really?
And I've been putting the wrong supplements, so I blame myself. I'm going to start putting in Riduzone.
All right, good.
No, but seriously, I do know the struggle of weight loss. I lost like 100 pounds a bunch of years ago, and I still struggled with my cravings, and my metabolism was really crappy. And it hasn't gotten any better until I started taking Riduzone, because I was getting older, and I realized when you get older, your metabolism does not get better. It actually gets worse. So it was hard to maintain, but Riduzone I found helped me maintain, and it's helped a lot of people, a lot of viewers actually, lose a bunch of weight. They had some people come in a while back giving testimonials, and they were all fans of Glenn, fans of the show, and they all were like, it was the only thing that helped me lose the weight. So try it, see if it works for you. Go to riduzone.com. That's riduzone.com. Get a 3-month supply and get 30% off of it by using promo code THEBLAZE. That's like $1.39 a day. They did the math for me because I'm really bad at math. But $1.39.
That checks out. Yeah, that checks out. $1.39. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
But that's way worth it to invest in your health. Riduzone.com. All right, Glenn, CNN.
Could we just roll Jim Acosta in the middle of the day in McAllen, Texas, with his sunglasses on at the border fence, and what he discovered?
And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Yeah. You know where it's not? In the San Diego area. This guy is crazy. First of all, is this the worst reporting ever? First of all, I've just picked a random space and I'm going there. And by the way, the thing I'm against, the wall, is right here. See, you can see through it. So it's more of a fence, which my people are more for a fence than a wall. But let me just show you, it's completely effective. But instead, I'm going to spin this as nobody's here. There is no emergency. Yes, because the freaking wall is right there. Also, it might have something to do with you're wearing sunglasses. Usually, people are coming in the cover of darkness. I mean, where was he when I went down to McAllen, Texas, with our border patrol in the middle of the night? Do you remember? Did you come with me?
I did not go with you, but I do remember.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It had a wee bit of danger to it.
That's how you and I met, and they still haven't caught me.
You're right. I went down there. I watched the boats come over in the middle of the night. I watched the people come over in droves. Yeah. McAllen, Texas is kind of a hot spot, but not in the middle of the day. Not where the border fence is, instead where there is no fence, Jim. What a complete and utter dope. And everyone at CNN, shame on you. Just shame on you.
I would have stepped in earlier, but I will never stop a Jim Acosta rant like that. Just let it
go
until it's over.
I mean, is there anything? I mean, think about that. Andrew, you're not a news guy, right?
No,
you're not a news guy. Let's say you're in charge of CNN. and this dope comes on your screen and you're watching it in the office and you're even against the border wall, okay? You're against it. Let's just say you're crazy against it, but you got a business to run. You pick up the phone and Jim Acosta, Mr. Keaton, Mr. Heaton.
There you go.
Jim Acosta,
right on the spot.
Jim Acosta is on line 2. You pick it up, and what do you say?
I would say, Jim, we've got a hot story for you. It's called logical fallacies. We're going to have, I don't think that a across the border wall is a good use of funds. So I don't think this is a good. That said, though, the logical holes in it are much bigger than the current border wall. And
There's parts where it's mountainous. You're not going to put a fence or a wall there.
Well, and there's like again from a safety issue. Like if he were to focus on the math side of this, I'd be with him on it. Where most of the drugs that are coming in, they're coming through legal ports. They're not coming from across the border. Most of the people, or 40% of the people overstaying their visa, they're already here. Mm-hmm. That said, though. If you pick a random spot of wall and go, look, it's peaceful. I'm like, well, I don't know math that well, but it's like more than 80 feet. Like you could pick and choose wherever you want it to be.
It's like going into a cancer ward and going, I just found this woman. She's cancer free. Everybody's talking about cancer. She has no cancer. It's a nurse, for the love of Pete.
By the way, I think Jim Acosta was aware of this controversy because his next report.
Well, hold on.
Yes.
Aware before he posted it?
Oh, after. I think this happened, and he saw himself getting beat up online. Yes. Everyone writing stories mocking him.
You mean he paid attention to what people were saying about him on Twitter?
Jim Acosta is always paying attention to what people are saying about Jim Acosta. That is the number one goal of Jim Acosta every day.
Tonight, I have to post some Jim Acosta reports. I'm going to do some Jim Acosta reports on Facebook tonight. I can't take it.
I like that. But he did his next report. He found the spot where the wall ends. And he stood there, and there's a small chain link fence that kind of connects it. And he's like, look, sometimes it's the steel slats, and sometimes it's this. And there's still no crazy things going on. Again, it is the middle of the day. Still, he hasn't solved that one yet. I assume tonight he's going to post a new one. But I mean, it's just a ridiculous. I mean, it's just. This was going on CNN all day. They had another person up in Vermont doing a report in which they showed the Canadian border, where there's been more terrorists that have come over. We've talked about the terrorism problem in Canada many times. It is actually a real problem, and there's more people that come over from Canada that are on the terrorist watch list than come over from the Mexican border. But still, like they show the border, and there's no border at all, right? Like they're just standing there, and they're discussing. It's very snowy, so I think that might be part of the reason why you wouldn't want to cross, because it's like 2 degrees and there's 6 feet of snow. But they go around and ask the people, do you want a wall here? Again, this is not reporting. Like in all seriousness, like what Jim Acosta was doing, that's him. It's a logical. It's like a softball pitch to the left, right? Like, look, this should be really, really easy. You should be able to understand that Donald Trump is wrong. They're not asking honest questions at all.
Where was Jim Acosta when I was at the border begging CNN to come down to the border? Where were they? Yeah. When I was calling CNN and saying, please cover this, they're keeping children in cages. Where were they?
Yeah, they weren't anywhere, and it's not honest. That's, I think, my biggest problem with it. You know, in the Vermont situation, they have one guy who says, oh, well, we don't need everything's fine up here. We don't need a border fence, and I don't think they need one down there either. And the next person is, well, we don't need a border fence. I mean, but there's border security everywhere. Every time you cross the border, a sensor goes off or something, and they're all over you right away. Well, if we had border security like that across the entire border, we probably wouldn't need a fence either.
I'm surprised they kept that part in.
I know. I think they thought it was making their point. The issue I have with it, though, is like, those are not honest questions. Those are setups. They're trying to like here is the case made against the president. Let me act as if the regular person on the street is making it. I mean, you could.
I'm going to fly to New Orleans, so I can be there tomorrow, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to show you. You know, people say New Orleans is out of control, and Bourbon Street, nothing but hookers and bar fights, and everything is open, and it's chaos on the streets on Fridays, right? I'm going to go there tomorrow morning. I'll be there at 9 a.m. and I'm going to walk down Bourbon Street and I'll show you there are no crowds there. This is all lies. There's not a single drunk person, at least in a large number of crowds. There's no problem. In fact, no stores are even open on Bourbon Street at 9 a.m. That's my story tomorrow morning.
But if you were ever in a coma and everybody's just standing around you going, please wake up, I'm going to come in and play Jim Acosta on my phone, put it up to your face and just, wake up out of it.
All right. Well, we could go on about Jim Acosta all day.
Yes.
But I'd like for you to just not pull a Jeffy.
Could somebody-
Have some sort of coronary event. So we're going to move on to the 28th Amendment.
The 28th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. I believe it's time for it.
Drinking.
More drinking? Like, so they come with a
No,
prohibition, then they put it back on.
You have to drink. You have to drink.
Forced drinking. That's it.
Women can drink.
Women can drink now, Glenn.
I'm a
That's
big
shocking.
fan of that
I know,
one.
yes.
I'm a big fan of
What is that one?
It is nothing right now, but I think it should be. Right now, we only have 27 amendments to the Constitution. The 28th is, I believe, should have been proposed by Ted Cruz in the last couple of days, and that is term limits. This comes up a lot. It's something that absolutely should be real, in my opinion, and I think the time for it is right now. Can I make my case?
Yes.
Here we go. First of all, the border wall is a big controversy. This is going to go on. When this is over, next thing, term limits. Here's why. Here's the polling on building the wall and term limits. As you might expect, Democrats do not like building the wall, but they do like term limits. 15% say build the wall, 76% say term limits.
Wow.
Independents, 31% say build the wall, but 83% say term limits. Again, this is one of the most popular things possible in our discourse. But you might say, Trump wants to stick with his base. You might say, okay, he wants something that's popular with his base, which I understand, and building the wall, if we see the Republican number on building the wall, it is very popular with his base. However, term limits are more popular with his base. 89% of Republicans want term limits. When have you ever seen polling on an issue like that? 76, 83.
Puppies are at 82%.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've got to look to I don't know, voter ID.
Yeah, I know. It's
Numbers like that.
I think that's even higher than voter ID,
Yeah.
which is very good.
It's,
So quickly to finish here, the good thing here is you also have Donald Trump, who's Mr. Drain the Swamp guy. This is a tweet from him back in April. I recently had a terrific meeting with a bipartisan group of freshman lawmakers who feel very strongly in favor of congressional term limits. I gave him my full support and endorsement for their efforts. So Trump, coming off of this border thing, no matter how it ends up, we're going to be really super divided. Here's something that he can propose that he actually wants and promised during the campaign that's incredibly popular. It's going to put all sorts of pressure on senators who are about to run for president to vote for it, and other people who are in that. It's going to be very difficult to say no if they can get that vote to come up. And I will say, it's been tried many times. They tried it in the 90s, and I think it needed 290 votes in the House. It got 220. In the Senate, it got 24 votes and needed a lot more than 24 votes. However, that was in 2012, I think. However, 2014 was the most recent effort where they really tried to push this through. The person who did it happens to also be Mick Mulvaney, who is currently serving as chief of staff under Donald Trump. Like, all this stuff is coming together. It's a sensible thing to do. It would be something really popular. It would be bipartisan in theory. I mean, certainly should be. And I think with Trump, who just owns that news cycle like he does, if he came out here and really put effort and started talking about it, they would have no choice but to get this thing to a vote. And it would be hard to vote no.
It would be a great way to take focus off of the border. You know, the border fails, he doesn't, and him saying, okay, you know why this didn't happen?
Yeah.
Because it's a swamp.
Yep.
Term limits, and he could actually turn that around. That's a brilliant idea.
I hope he does.
Now, here's my problem with term limits.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I hate this term, but it's the shadow government. It's the dark, what do they call them now? Is they call it shadow government?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying like
Deep state?
Deep state. It's
Right.
the deep state.
Right.
The deep state seems so conspiratorial. What the deep state in America is just everybody in the State Department. The people who are career State Department people. They've been there forever. If you lose the institutional knowledge in Congress and in the Senate, how many of these weasels will just go to the State Department and go, I don't know, what do you think? I mean,
that can happen. A, I think it happens already. These people aren't even reading the freaking bills as it is. B, how much time do you need? We're talking about 2 decades.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough knowledge in 2 decades, I mean, and you have to stay for another 50 years after that with that institutional knowledge.
Strom Thurmond almost got it.
Yeah.
He was very close to being able to get it, but he left too soon.
I think 10 years in Congress maximum.
I think the Cruz is 2 6-year terms in the Senate, and I think it's 3 2-year terms in the House. There's been various things of this. One of the things Cruz is getting beat up on, which is ridiculous, but I think it's very smart by Cruz, is he's not counting whatever you have now doesn't count. When this thing starts, that's when
Which
the
is
thing
the only way
kicks
it's going
in.
to get passed.
The only way it's going to get passed. They're not going to limit their own power, but they'll limit
They
the future.
could, because
also
they
be
are
too
also
messy.
they are also all grandmothers and grandfathers. They could grandfather themselves in.
Yeah.
They could say, okay, this applies to the person after I die.
Yeah.
This applies to the next person that comes in.
They could.
could.
Anything, right?
Yeah.
Anything to do this, because I think it is. I mean, look, you see what these people do if they've been there all this time. We've seen the results of this, and this is not supposed to be like this. You've talked about it 100 times, Glenn, about how these guys this was a part-time job for them. They came in, they did some stuff, they went back, they farmed, they did their real jobs.
This
we
is
need to get closer to that.
supposed to be in the summertime.
Yeah.
That's why it's in Washington. It was a swamp. They thought, nobody's going to come here, man. You'll all have malaria. And this is the one time I'm kind of pulling for malaria.
I think I'd be okay with an amendment that if you are a congressman, senator, or chief of staff, once you leave office, you cannot live or work in the District of Columbia or any adjacent county. Just as a
Or
caveat.
visit.
Yeah.
Or visit.
Well, you'd have to be very careful because you could get around that, right? But yeah, because everyone's always like, I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular Joe. I like fishing, and and then as soon as the term ends, they're golfing in D.C. and they live there forever.
Do you think that it has a chance to pass? I don't.
I would say right now it doesn't, but I think if Trump did what I was
That's the
outlining
key.
there, he would have to get. Yeah, he takes my. He's a
Tell
big-
him I
big
told you
close
that.
friend. Okay.
Cruz step in and go, what about $3 billion for a border wall, and we'll do this, and then add it into the border wall package? Because if that happened, I could see a whole equation changing.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I mean, I do
this
think
is a great idea.
I think if Trump really got behind it, and I think what might get him behind it is the frustration of this border situation.
And that would get the American people behind it,
Yeah,
too.
it's nonsense for all of us. Everyone here it's a swamp, whether you like me or not. It's a swamp, and it's ridiculous. This is not supposed to be your entire life.
The good ones would be relieved.
Yeah.
Like Mike Lee would be like, oh, thank God. Thank God I can
Justin
leave.
Amash can finally take off.
Yeah.
So everyone watching, everyone tweets to Donald Trump because we know he's paying attention to the tweets. Let him know about our awesome idea, and maybe
Great
he'll get
idea.
wind of it. Back in a minute.
So Ted.
It's Ted Cruz's idea, right? So
yeah,
you don't
but-
have to blame it with us. He likes Cruz now, so it's
Yes, but to have Trump spin around the border wall issue.
right.
Really?
Before we move on, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So I was in a car crash in 2013, and it did not do good things to my cervical spine. So Relief Factor has been a godsend for me personally. I know that it's helped you as well, Glenn.
Yeah, I was
you were in a way worse
Yeah, I was in
position than I was.
a car accident in my cervix, which I'm not sure where that is.
No, that's
don't think you
no,
have
you don't
one.
have that.
No, no. I'm a pain in the ass, and I've got pain, and I started taking it a year ago in December, second week of December, and it has changed my life. Really, truly has changed my life. You guys worked with me. You knew that there were times that I, would have to tell the cameraman, don't show my hands or don't do this, because it was so bad, and I actually did that chalkboard today.
Did you really?
Yeah, there are days I cannot write. I mean, I just can't write. My hands hurts too much.
Yeah, but
With Relief Factor, it has totally changed.
and it's drug-free, which
Yeah.
is nice. So anyone looking for some sort of alternative to Big Pharma, which I always am. I know you men are like, ugh, all natural. But it works. So go to relieffactor.com. Get your 3-week quick start. It's $19.95. The majority of the people who try this quick start pack buy it again. It's working for them. It can work for you. Go to relieffactor.com.
Better living through petrochemicals. I'm still there.
All right, Andrew, you said Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, Richard Dawkins, and Steven Pinker are all allying behind a professor named Boghassian, who is behind, you all probably covered this when it came out, the grievance hoax that came out. If you've not, this is a fantastic story. But basically a professor at, I think Stanford, who's West Coast, got 2 other people that were non-academics, and he wrote a series of papers to get into various publications.
Yes.
The premise to it was that as long as it was overwhelmingly liberal and intersectional, that he could get it published anywhere. And he put in a lot of very odd and fairly amusing things, in my opinion. There's a lot of schadenfreude there. Like the best one was there was a very lengthy paper on dog sexual assault in dog parks. There was also a story called "Your Struggle is My Struggle." my struggle.
Mein Kampf.
He actually translated some of Mein Kampf and put it in there. So there were several things like that. So he is being reprimanded by his university, and the mechanism by which they're doing it is through internal review boards. And what they're saying is, by virtue of doing this, you tested subjects without going through the proper protocol. Now, the reason we have internal review boards is if I want to say, like, test syphilis cures on people without talking to them, which we've done in the past, or withheld it, that kind of thing, right? We've done some terrible things. So the idea is you want to keep any type of abuses going on with test subjects through these internal review boards. But I think this is kind of overstepping it, because he didn't have people in a basement or anything. This is, the subjects are the people that were publishing this particular, these various tracts. Which
That's a real reach. I mean, geez.
Yeah, well, and this is my thing. I think if you were the university and you're like, look, you set out to make all of your colleagues look like morons, we're angry about that, I'd be like, well, I mean, I kind of think they deserve it a little bit, but I understand why you would get in trouble if I were to, like, do a sting operation here at the Blaze. I imagine there'd be some kind of reprimand, but that would be an honest and direct way of handling it. And what they're doing instead is they're going out of the way to claim that this is kind of an ethical lapse through normal professorial testing.
Can I just challenge one thing you said? If you did a sting here at the Blaze and there was something really wrong, I'd be the first one to say, thank you.
Well, the sting was going to be on you.
I would not be the first to say thank you. No, but if your intent, if you are a place of higher education and someone has revealed not your place, but the system is corrupt, and this will lead to better data and better conclusions, the universities should be holding him up and saying, thank you. Not trying to.
I agree, which is part of the. I mean, part of the whole Enlightenment lineage that we've received intellectually is this idea that you're not supposed to just automatically defer to authority. You're going to test things. You're going to test conclusions. I think this is good. The only thing I have with him is that I think they overplayed that thesis a little bit, because it wound up, most of their stuff wasn't actually published, so it wasn't a same dunk.
Well,
but I do think it illustrated a good point.
Yeah, we did talk to both the head, that guy, the main guy from the college, and one. What was the other one? Helen.
From England.
Hotlock or something.
Yes. So a couple of the people who were involved in that, and at least their story on that was that they were in process when these things first started coming out.
They didn't get called out early, because I think the Wall Street Journal, the Wall Street Journal, sensed something was amiss with the dog-on-dog sexual assault story.
Yes, someone else caught it. I think it went to one of the real peer reviewer, I think, put it out there and started highlighting these examples. And because they knew the whole thing was going to blow up, they had to rush it and stop some of those. They did believe, though, they were going to get about 80% of them actually published by the end. So, I mean, again, I think the worst part about this, maybe from the university's perspective, is you're just proving his point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the point is the system is corrupt, and look at you. You're manipulating this thing that's supposed to be good and internal review, and instead you're using it to take out, some sort of political vendetta, and you're proving his point again.
I think higher education is in many ways still kind of in the throes of a medieval system, and we don't tend to think of it or view it that way. But there is, in fact, that inertia there, and that suffocating aspect to it.
What's crazy is, you know what the professorial robes, you probably know this, do you know what they're for?
It might be like a clerical thing. Like, was it to do with...
No. It was cold. They wore those because of the big stone classrooms, and they wore those because they were warm.
Can we get those here?
I know, I would totally
Well, it's
work.
kind of like, I don't like putting Latin on diplomas, because it's like, hey, moron, here's this thing that's got magic on it, and it shows that you're good. It's like, the whole point of this is to explain stuff to you. So, like, why are we going to use a system that
Very good point.
Obfuscates things?
All right, back in a minute.
Because it separates you.
Yeah.
It makes you in a class higher than the people who can't read the Latin.
I was just thinking about that on the way to work.
Those of you who are not watching this yet on Blaze TV, you're missing out on Overtime. We do an Overtime segment every day, and that's where the real fun happens. So,
none of us are wearing pants.
Right.
I think it's better self we say we're putting extra clothes on.
Okay, yes.
We're
That's
putting
where
we
we're
put
all
extra-
wearing parkas and we obscure our faces,
So go to-
except for Sarah.
Thank you. Go to Blaze TV right now. Use promo code NEWS for $10 off. And for those of you who are already watching, we'll see you in Overtime.